I'm going to tell you a little story, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life and how Catholic education fits into it. And I hope in some ways it may resonate with you or resonate with what your own experience is at one time or another. I'm as old as this institution is. So when I started school, I had two experiences in my educational life that were non-Catholic. First was kindergarten. I attended a public school in kindergarten. And the second was when I went to Champaign-Urbana and did my doctoral degree. Every other experience that I had in education was within the Catholic system in one way or another. And I remember distinctly my experience in second grade. I went to a school outside of Detroit, Michigan called St. Michael's. It was run by the Felician sisters. There were three classes of every grade. So do the math. It went from first grade to eighth grade. There were 3 classrooms for each grade. There wasn't a single lay teacher in the school. The sisters ran the entire school. And in my second grade class, I had Sister Mary Cherubin was her name. And there were 72 second graders in my class, in the room that I was in. And so the experience was this sister, and in those days, they seemed to be ageless. You know, they all looked alike, they all had the exact same outfits on, they all wore the same habits, their faces, all you could see was their faces. And if you don't know, the Felicians are a Polish order, and they only spoke Polish to each other in school. They spoke English to us, but they spoke, whenever they communicated to each other, it was in Polish. And they had on their habits a piece of their veil that used to flip over. So it kind of covered their faces. And when they spoke to each other, they flipped this over, so all you saw was these two heads next to each other speaking Polish. So you never really knew what they were saying to each other. But so, in any case, Sister Mary Cherubin controlled 72 second graders. Total silence. And the thing I remember most about second grade was her favorite expression: sit up straight and fold your arms. Sit up straight and fold your arms. It was a sense of discipline throughout the room. And a sense of something that I remember very, very vividly was just the gentleness in which she used to deal with all of us. Now, these are 7-year-olds. 72 7-year-olds in one room, sitting at desks with our hands folded and sitting up straight. Even in the sense of, there used to be these things called reading groups. And you'd have a reading group come up, and half the, like 20 kids or something would come up for these reading groups, and you'd sit in these little chairs. And she was the only one teaching the class. Nobody else ever came in. And the rest of us were sitting up straight with our hands folded, doing our work in silence. And that's what I remember about second grade. But my experience in terms of Catholic education was always that sense of, it was a disciplined approach to education, or it was a disciplined approach to the very way you viewed life. And when I myself started teaching school, I had the same experience, or I felt like many of the ideas were still coming back in one way or another. So when I look back at my own experience, when I look back at my own Catholic education experience, I look at it in the context of several different things. Of people that sat there, or stood in front of me and taught me what it means to be a unique person in relationship to others. What it means to really step outside of yourself and serve one another. What it means to really be a person that is concerned about the well-being of someone else. What does education do for you in order to help you elevate to a different place? Not individually, but collectively. How do we rise together to experience that in one way or another? And how is it that we challenge each other in that experience? When I was at the University of Illinois, and I said, you know, I was always checking myself. What am I saying? How am I saying it? Because I was always afraid that one of those 1,000 people that were sitting in front of me was going to go back to the chair of the department and say, he said God again. I said it again. But I can't teach without saying God. I can't live without speaking about that experience. And I can't be who I am in context of the community that I've been a part of and raised in, and have really kind of been nurtured in. Because it has always said, you are important. You are an image of that God. And you carry his breath within you. So sit up straight and be proud of the experience you have as part of this faith community. And be concerned about how you interact with the community. And always, always be aware that it is never you. It is always us. And that is the value of Catholic education.
Thank you so much. And maybe there's some questions. Would you take questions, Father, if anyone had questions? I don't know.
Or challenges. Yes.
Father, now that there are fewer Augustinians to carry on the charism at Villanova, what are you looking for in new hires, faculty, staff?
I think it's probably true with any Catholic institution, college or university now. There's always this sense, and there's a lot of talk amongst particularly the religious congregations or communities that are the founders of it, is how do we instill our charism in other people? You know, how do we continue to instill our charism in it? So I think you have to be really clear about that charism, what it is that the institution was founded for, the mission of the institution. And it's hiring for mission. It's hiring to be mission effective. So when you're looking at hiring new faculty members, and they don't, I mean, we have probably some of our most committed faculty at Villanova are non-Catholic. But they really believe in the mission of the institution. They really believe in who we are and what we're all about. And we ask a question, and you may do the same thing here, I really don't know, but when we hire new faculty, new staff, for example, they receive this whole document about what the Augustinian charism is and what Augustinian education is all about. And we ask them, how will you contribute to this? You know, how will you add to this? From whatever experience you have. You know, how will you continue to add to this? Because as being part of this community, you can't be working against it, but you have to be working for it. And so you can come at it from a lot of different angles. But it's really, I would say that probably on Villanova's campus, I would say probably you would have the same experience here. There are some people on Villanova's campus that are more Augustinian than some Augustinians. You know, have really kind of taken in the charism and have really enjoyed it and enjoyed sharing it with the students. So there's that sense of hiring, you know, what we always talk about is hiring for mission. And how do you contribute to that mission? And you ask the same thing of the students. You know, the students don't get off scot-free. You know, it's not the sense of, when Sister Francesca said that I really am dedicated to service, and I am. I'm a big service buff. And I'm very big on, we have this big day of service, and we do Martin Luther King Day of Service, and we do service during the week. And they spend more time doing service, I think, than they do in class sometimes. But, you know, it's the sense of how do you contribute back to it? You've been blessed. You've been given something that many people in this world will never have the opportunity to have. You know, to be able to say, I have a moment in my life, and you know, whether it's 4, 5, 6 years, you know, it takes you to get through an institution, sometimes longer. You know, but you have an opportunity in your life to be in a place and experience something that most people in this world will never have. You must use that to benefit somebody else. You must use it to help them in some way or another. And you can't take that opportunity or that gift that you've been given and keep it to yourself. And so when the students come into the institution, I think it's just as much as I'm going to go to Augustine again, okay? Augustine's big thing with teachers is that teachers should learn just as much from their students as they impart on their students. That there is a way of, that students really have to step into the situation and say, how is it that I contribute to this as well? It is my education. And what do I want from that education?
Father, if you're lucky enough to be college president at 80, what do you see the next 20 years of?
If I'm lucky enough to be the college president at 80,
what do you see the next 20 years of Catholic higher education looking like, and how does it evolve in our community?
Oh, wow.
My Catholic history.
I think it's going to change. I think it's naturally going to change in the sense of, I think private schools in general, public schools as well, but private schools are struggling to stay alive, and to continue, because it's important to continue. We always believe it's important to continue our mission and to do that effectively. And how do you continue to do that? Because it costs dollars to do that. And it costs, and the price is really what's becoming problematic. It's becoming unreachable for some people. When I talk about Villanova being, a place for immigrant students, my mantra constantly is, we cannot let go of that idea. We cannot become this place that costs $50,000 a year. And, who can afford that? I don't know who can, we really have to find a way to make college accessible to people. And how do you do that? And that's going to be a big issue as it goes on. Because the price, as you all know, from being here, the price of the rates that college education is going up, are outscoping the economy, the rise in cost of living, so it's going up so high. So how do you contain that cost? However, in a college experience, there's more to just educating students. And I think that's sometimes what people don't necessarily understand. They always talk about tuition and what the cost of tuition is, and this costs you this much to educate a student. But colleges and universities are expected to do so much more. And contributing to the very notion of education, contributing to the academic discipline that faculty are involved in, furthering the way we think, furthering technology, furthering discovery of new medicines and new cures and new ways of doing things and building things. So much of that happens on a college or university campus through the research and scholarship of faculty, which needs to be funded in some way or another. And so if you lose that notion, you lose the very nature of what a university should be about. Because it's more than just teaching her what Chaucer is saying on this page. It's also allowing her to look at that experience and through the research and scholarship of that particular faculty member, to have that faculty member invite her into the world of Chaucer, and how does Chaucer continue to speak to her, or what she can add to the knowledge of Chaucer. So it's much more than just, oh, I know who Chaucer is. It's how do I flourish in this education? So that I think is going to be really difficult, because the cost of it is going to escalate. It's going to continue to escalate. The other thing about just the history of Catholic institutions were that there were people like myself and the sisters that are sitting in this room, religious communities that staffed a place. That's going to suddenly shrink, and that's how do you maintain that mission of that institution without it becoming just kind of moving away or dying out? What is it that attracts somebody to come to Holy Family? What is it that, and if you really look at it, if all of you sitting in this room who are students, if you look at it, I hope it's more than it's just convenient. I hope that it's more than it's just, well, it happens to be a few blocks away from where I live, or it's on the right subway line, or it seems nice. Or, I came from another part of the state, or another, from another state, whether it's Jersey or someplace else, because I wanted to get away from home. It's got to be more than that. When you walked on this campus, when you experienced this campus, there was something that touched you. And that's what's special about it, and about any college experience for a student. That's what's special about it. And it's the people here that call you to stay here, and what it is, and how do you make that live on? How do you keep it moving on through the various faculty and staff that are here? So it's keeping that there. That's going to be hard, I think, down the road. It's going to be more and more difficult because it's going to be the cost of it, and the demographics and the numbers are going to change. And student bodies are not going to be there. And how do you continue to foster that? It's going to be a difficult thing. And I don't plan on being a president.